Hello. So, I want to set up Fire Mage. I've already set up what I would call my main characters. Set up my Shaman, who I usually level first, and my Priest from Legion Remix, which I wanted to do some things on in Midnight, so kind of made a natural transition with her. And then I went through and reset up my tanks because I was still doing things with them at the end of the War Within still. So I've set up all the frequently used characters, I'll say. So I want to go through, I mostly play elves, and kind of wanting to play elves at the moment. So been going through and setting up a few classes that I'm thinking I want to do something with. And in addition to that, I have this habit of looking at the end of an expansion, realizing like there's one class I didn't play a lot of in an expansion for some reason, and then in the next expansion, that's the class I will try to focus on a bit, and that is partially what I'm doing with Mage. I didn't really play a whole lot of Mage in the War Within for some reason, and kind of in general, my experience with Mage, well, mostly positive, mostly good, has been very sporadic throughout various expansions and patches and things like that. So I did level my Mage to level 80, mostly for the Feat of Strength achievement of leveling, I think it was like 12 characters, something like that. And at some point in time, I think it was during that when I set up Arcane, because I mostly played Arcane and Fire on this character. I don't really play Frost that much. I have an allied race character that I'm leveling as Frost. But really enjoyed Arcane, like, back during, it was probably Battle for Azeroth. And when I tried setting it up in, I'm thinking it was the War Within, they had made some changes and it just wasn't wasn't filling that niche that I remember, so to speak. It just didn't feel the same. So Fire seems to be what I tend to like playing the most on Mage. So that is what I am going to do, and then figure out at some point what I'm doing with his character. So we'll go through and just reset everything so we can just start over. My poor action bars here have been completely, it's been a minute. They're completely all over the place. So let me take a look. So that's kind of what we're starting with. So not a whole lot. What's the symbol that notation say? So Arcane Intellect. This is some of these are kind of funny when you look at them of what it wants you to. It wants me to use Frost Firebolt, which I don't even have because I don't even have those hero talents. So good luck with that. Okay, so you start out with Pyroblast, of course, and then I wasn't quite understanding this. Fire Blast replace Fire Blast. So yeah, not exactly understanding that, but probably want to take that. Want Combustion. Certainly. And then I like this what they've been doing with these kind of area of effect or at target location abilities, where they've been making them either their original version where you can do the over your current target or burns all within the area. Yeah, you can either use the original on location ability, or you can use the just apply to the current target ability. So I think with Flame Strike, because you get Flame Patch, I think it is, where it leaves fire on the ground, I think I want to be able to target this, so I think on your current target, yes, I think that's probably the one I want. And then equal to 100% of your critical strike to build up Hot Streak. Okay, so Hot Streak is, so the whole thing with Fire Mage is your critical strike. So getting 2 direct critical strikes makes your next Pyroblast or Flame Strike instant cast, and okay. So probably want to take that, because I'm going to have to take something that I don't want. I don't want Meteor, because Meteor has a built-in 3-second delay before it works, so it's just not great. Fireball spells always critical strike when the target is above 90% health. Don't know that I need that. Cauterize, so this is your cheat death. You avoid dying, but you do take fire damage, so hence the name. Brings you to 35 health and burns you for 28% of your maximum health over 6 seconds. Movement slowing effects are suppressed. X will not occur more than once every 6. Yes, we want to go ahead and take that. What's really good is if you can get this and then get Ice Block. We'll either just use Ice Block because it will negate the damage, or if you can get Ice Block to heal you, which is usually the case in one form or another. Fire Blast now spreads 50% of your target's ignite to one enemy, applies 15% more ignite. Okay, so that is kind of so that's the mastery, so that's a little dot. Burns for an additional damage over 9 seconds of the total direct damage caused by your Fireball, Fire Blast, Pyroblast, and Flame Strike. Wouldn't consider Flame Strike direct damage. It's more AoE damage, but okay. I mean, I guess it is direct damage. It's not over time damage, so that would make sense. If this effect is reapplied, the remaining damage will be added to the new ignite, so gain 1 additional, yeah, so gain 1 additional charge, yes. Scorch, I never use, so I'm not going to take it. Fireball gains 1 additional charge and its cooldown is reduced, yes, because I should have 3. Oh, they took Phoenix Flames away. That's what was in 3. Okay. Couldn't remember. I was like, I should know this, but yeah. So, Fire Blast should have 3 effects. Let me see here. Did they really just completely take it away? Because we had 6 charges at one point between Phoenix Flames. And yeah, I think they did, because it's not an ability that I'm seeing, unless they added it to something else. No, they just completely took it away. Okay, I mean, that kind of makes sense for balancing, because that was way overpowered. Being able just to, because Phoenix Flames was an automatic critical strike, and I think Fire Blast is an automatic critical strike as well, so then depending on whatever your actual critical strike was, yeah, you could just constantly spam Pyroblast, so. Okay, so Combustion's cooldown is reduced by 60 seconds. 2 minutes is fine. I don't really use Combustion all that much, so in the regular rotation, somebody's probably going to think I'm a bad mage for not using combustion more often. Okay, so increases your chance to... Okay, so increases your chance to deal critical strike, gain more critical strike from all sources, and this stacks up. So why wouldn't we? While combustion is not active, damage from ignite has a small chance to make your next scorch instant. Yeah, don't need it. So fireball always critical strikes enemies below 30% health, and fireball and scorch damage an enemy below 30% health. Fireball deals 25% increased damage, and scorch deals 250% increased damage. Tempting. Damaging an enemy with fireball. Fireball's flame strike increases the damage you receive from ignite. All fire damage is increased 3%. They also took away Living Bomb, which I'm very disappointed because Living Bomb was very good. I liked that. It was cleave damage, so it would only work on like your target and then I think maybe like one or two other targets. But it was nice. They phased all those types of effects. There was one for each spec that did slightly different things, and I think they've all but phased them out now. Let me just make sure I'm not missing anything here. Center of the meteor's impact, yeah. Meteor's cooldown, yeah, no. Now see, that's the way it should be. If you don't want the talent, you shouldn't have to take it to take any of the passives below it, or any of the talents below it. So that was pretty good design of this part of the tree anyway. Casting Combustion refreshes up to 1 charge of Fire Blast. Damage dealt to targets below 30% health is increased 15%. Hot Streak increases the amount of ignite damage. Your Pyro Blast or Flame Strike 5%. That's worthwhile. I think that's probably worthwhile. Where was critical strikes below 30% health? Sure. Because you're a mage, you're going to be wearing cloth, so those last few, you know, a low health target, you know, could be where the fight gets kind of iffy. So, Casting Combustion refreshes up to 1 charge of Fire Blast. 2 charges of Fire Blast. Sure. Well, I don't know. Yeah, I'll try it and see. I don't want to waste charges, but typically Fire Blast is almost always on cooldown anyway, so while Ignite is on 3 or fewer enemies, it flares up, dealing additional damage. Sure. Fire Blast deals additional damage up to 8 nearby. I'm not going to worry about these lower, you know, abilities like this. We just had a stat squish in Midnight, so abilities like this typically don't scale all that well. They're not all that great. Again, let me look and see. I don't think I need anything below here. No. All of your active ignites explode. Well, that is an interesting thing, but I'm not going to. It's not active. Yeah. I'm not going to necessarily, unless I absolutely have to. So now I have to take something to unlock the rest of the trees, because of course you do. So might take Fire Starter, because we've got below 30% health, so above 90 would kind of fill that out. And then I don't want Meteor. I've tried it, don't particularly care for it. Kindling's probably good. Damaging an enemy. Increases the damage it receives from Ignite by 2%, stacking up 50 times. Yeah, I'm not going to get into all that. Okay, so Fire Blast damage increased by 10% and is now spreads Ignite to 1 additional target. 2 additional targets. That could be good, because I'm going to be using... You actually use Fire Blast kind of as your main ability. Fire Mage works a bit differently because you need the critical strikes. So you, at least I typically use Fire Blast more often than you kind of, instead of using... I think normally you'd more on a different caster, you'd use Fireball more often. And then kind of work in your other abilities, but you actually tend to use Fire Blast more. Unless Combustion is active, because it makes all your critical strikes 100%. So, yeah. Spreads to... Sure. Each critical strike you deal increases critical strike damage. Yeah, don't think I need to do that. Your spells have a chance. Your spell critical strike chance is increased. Combustion increases your critical strike damage. Okay. That's a 5% increased chance. Sure, I'll take that. While Hot Streak is active, to repeat the spell at 50%. Yeah. Gotta be careful with all the percentages. Percentage chance. Because you can inadvertently make Fire Mage very weak, waiting for things to proc. That have a very low chance, because it's all based on your critical strike. So, the cast time of Pyroblast is reduced. I always use it when it has a proc, so... casting was a chance to... Wait, what was the... Casting Pyroblast or Flame Strike has an 8% chance to summon a storm of 5-seaters that pursues your target. Upon reaching your target, each deals fire damage, applies Ignite, percent effectiveness, and spreads 50% of your to 1 additional target. Yeah, but it's an 8% chance, so... Just not sure. Consumes Hot Streak. Streak is active. 6% chance to repeat the spell at 50% effectiveness. Just don't care for that. Fire Blast damage increased 15%. Your direct spells reduce the cooldown of Fire Blast by 15%. Yes, I like that very much. Combustion grants mastery equal to 50% of your critical strike stat. Combustion causes your spells to apply Ignite at 50% increased effectiveness. Combustion grants you 10% spell damage plus an additional 20% for critical strike chance equal as spell damage. So I'm thinking, well, you gotta have combustion up. See, that's the thing. Fire Blast increases your mastery by 2% for 4 seconds. Multiple applications may overlap. So 6% isn't terrible. Ignite deals 50% more damage while combustion is not active. Fire Blast now spreads an additional 50% of your ignite. So since we went down this way, sure, we'll take burnout, because I'm kind of curious to see what that does. Question grants mastery. 75% of your critical strike. Causes your spells to apply ignite. Effectiveness. So you gotta remember that ignite does stack. So that 15% is getting added to whatever else is there. There's a lot of theory crafting with Mage. So that could potentially be good. I think that might be better than grant you 10% increase spell damage plus an additional 20% critical strike chance as spell damage. Yeah, I think slow burn might be better. Recharges 50% faster. What was this? Increases your critical strike chance by 1% up to 4. Yeah. Cast time, no. There was something else I thought that increased fire blast damage unless I took it. I may have taken it because I've taken most everything here. I don't want meteor. Not going to deal with all that. Damaging an enemy with fireball increases the damage. Second 5 times. Yeah, not going to deal with any of that. I don't use Scorch. Fire Blast deals an additional fire damage up to 8 nearby enemies. Just don't think it's very good, and I have a feeling it's not going to scale all that well. 6% chance to repeat the spell at 50%. Wait, casting Pyroblast or Flame Strike while Hot Streak is active has a 6% chance to repeat the spell cast at 50% effectiveness. This effect counts as consuming Hot Streak. See, that could be a problem, because if I have one charge and I'm trying to get another charge, that could actually slow me down. Because this is only repeating the spell at 50%, where if I got another Hot Streak, I could just cast the spell again at 100%. So, going back to, again, a lot of theory crafting with Mage, so yeah, I need to put this into something. Fire Blast increases your mastery by 2% for 4 seconds. Multiple applications may overlap. Sure, if multiple applications overlap. So this kind of works like the one effect, I can't remember the name of it now, did for Arcane, where it would kind of build up and then decrease and then build up and then decrease, because you're kind of doing the same thing. If multiple applications of this overlap and your mastery triggers Ignite, which also multiple applications of that overlap, so it's going to be this kind of constantly in flux ability, so that could be good, potentially. So my hero talents don't seem to have changed or reset, so Sun Fury works more with fire, as curious as I am to use Frostfire Bolt. You have to take Meteor, which I don't particularly care to do, so I'm just going to leave those as is for now. So for the Mage Talent, you get Blazing Barrier, which is just your Frost Barrier. I want Ice Block. I do. The cooldown is reduced. I want that. By 60 seconds, yes. Hypothermia, which is what you get from using Ice Block, and I think something else. Might just be Ice Block. Yeah. Duration is reduced by 10 seconds, so this causes 20 seconds. Because there are spells that will reset Ice Blocks, so I'm gonna have to take something, so sure. Mirror Images. Sure, that's pretty good mage ability that I'm pretty sure at one point was just for Frost, and then they made it more of a baseline ability. Grant you an additional 2% intellect. Sure. Don't particularly care to take Alter Time because I don't really use it. I'm used to using it as what, Frost? I think it was exclusive to Frost, but it can help you if you're trying to, if you blink, this will kind of send you back to where you need to be, so sure. So I'm going to have to take something most likely upon dropping below 25% health. Your past self corrects your timeline after casting Alter Time and instantly returns 50% of your maximum health. Oh, nice. Resets the cooldown of Blink when you return to your original location. Okay, so upon dropping below 25% health, your past self corrects the timeline, casting Altered Time and instantly returning 50% of your maximum health. I kind of like that. Resets the cooldown of Blink, which would be more helpful. Probably... I'm trying to think. Like, if you Alter Time returns you to the location you were at, used to return all your buffs and everything. That has long since been changed in the tooltip. Returning you to your current location. So with Blink, I think the health would be better. Reduces the cooldown by 5 seconds. Sure, so that would be 55 seconds. 10 seconds, so 40 seconds. 50 seconds. There we go, 50 seconds. Reduces magical damage taken. Counter spells cooldown is reduced. There we go. I want Dragon's Breath, because that is kind of... Yeah. Do I get Blast Wave back? I do not, apparently, which is disappointing. Because Blast Wave, Cone of Cold, and Dragon's Breath, and Frost Nova were all pretty good working together. Well, Dragon's Breath does disorient, so I mean that's not nothing. Missed all the other two, but I really like Blast Wave. That is unfortunate. And then each time your fireball fails to critical strike, it gains 20% increase. Yes. Yes. So I want that. Don't really use remove curse. Mirror image cooldown is reduced 30 seconds, so that would be a minute and a half. Sure. That would be just a minute. Greater invisibility, yes, because it does have some niche uses. Reduces cooldown of invisibility 6 seconds. Yeah, sure. Because it can help get you out of some kind of sticky situations. Haste increase, yes, because I'm going to be prioritizing critical strike and mastery, so that is good. Increases critical strike chance by 2, yes. Spell Steal, again, somebody's probably going to think I'm a bad mage, but I never use this, so I'm not really all that worried about taking it. Yeah, I don't particularly care for Shimmer. I forget exactly what it was. It was the talent or something, the way Arcane was set up made you take Shimmer. I never take Shimmer. I'm perfectly fine with Blink. Works perfectly fine the way it is. Yeah, so this is going to let you take... Oh, counter spell, not spell steal. Counter spell. Which is your spell interrupt, which should be on yeah, I was going to say, 25 seconds. I was going to say, I thought it was 15 seconds. Prevents any... Oh, that might actually be good, so we might actually want to take that. Prevents casting an additional... Spell stuff prevents casting an additional one. Wait. I read that wrong. I thought it was any spell in that school. Oh, it is. It is, never mind. I know what I'm doing. There may be a small chance that I maybe play around with PvP, so I'm bearing that in mind, but that is a small chance for Mage, so... critical strike damage of your spells is increased by 5%. Sure, 5%'s not terrible. Freezing Cold and Ice Nova, which replaces Cone of Cold. That's interesting. Okay. Cooldown, Blink, Shimmer reduced by 3. So you can get 5 seconds reduced on this. Sure. Why wouldn't we? Your mana cost is reduced by 5. Don't really have an issue with mana. This isn't arcane, but sure. Barrier removes all snare effects. Sure. Your mastery is increased 3%. Sure, every little bit helps. When your barrier is removed, reduce its cooldown by 5 seconds. Blazing barriers damage is increased by 200%. And now cauterizes your wounds, healing you for 15% of the damage it absorbs. So that is very nice. Ring Frost or Mass Polymorph. Don't really use either one of those. Blink gains an additional charge. After casting Blink, it is replaced with Reflection for 8 seconds, teleporting you back to where you last Blink castable while casting and unaffected by the global cooldown. Oh, that's nice. So that was a arcane only ability they added in, which is a separate ability in and of itself for a while. But I think I would rather just have the 2 charges. Yeah, don't really need to go backwards all that often. The cooldown of loss of control are reduced by 5. The duration of Hot Streak is increased by 15 seconds. That's not really an issue. Frost Nova's duration is increased by 2. Frost Nova has 2 charges. Yes, probably want 2 charges. Procedure, yeah. So, did want to read what these were. So, enemies hit by Cone of Cold are frozen in place. For 5 seconds until snared. When your roots expire or are dispelled, your target is snared by 80%, decaying every 3 seconds. And then this is just the regular ability that just replaces Cone of Cold then, because Ice Nova's been in the game for a while. Frost damage, target. Yeah, okay. So, I feel like that is pretty good. And then I apparently forgot to put a point into fire. hate having to figure out once you've went through. Increases the damage it receives by stacking 50%. Yeah. You know what I think I'm gonna do is just take Conflagration, I think, because it's the least worst option that I'm seeing. So, got everything set up now. They have way oversimplified Mage, as you can see. So, yeah, I don't think it gave me a chance to take Flame Patch, did it? No. They took Flame Patch out of the game, it would seem, which is disappointing because that was, unless it's a PvP talent. No? No, they took it out of the game. It was a bit disappointing. But this does seem to be working as somewhat intended. So... Oh, I see. Combustion now looks like the Phoenix Flame. That's interesting. Yeah, so I mean, it still kind of works basically like it did before. They just cut out a lot of the non-essential abilities, which is fine. So, this is just with my little bit of gearing from War Within. So 38% haste is higher than what your normal character would have. You don't generally go much over 20.